Running with the Devils, and it's a victory show. Yes, we are back talking everything Arizona State football. I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles. Here with me, as always, Big John Caldwell. You are Running with the Devils here on YouTube, and we're so glad that you could tune in and join us for another show here. Devils move to 3-1. They get a road win in their conference opener against the Baylor Bears over the weekend. A bit of a nail biter, real back and forth game, Big John, especially in the fourth quarter there. Kind of some stressful moments there. I know for me, for the defense to play well for 3.5 quarters and then kind of have some brain farts there towards the end with some of those plays. But the Devils get it done. Jesus Gomez kicks a game-winning field goal as time expires to lift the Devils to a 27-24 victory over the Baylor Bears and moving them to 3-1 on the year and 1-0 in the Big 12 Conference. Nice win, Big John, really, especially because, I know I picked Baylor to win. A lot of the odds makers had the game going pretty close. I think Baylor was favored by like 1.5 or 2.5. So for ASU to go in there, kind of a not as hostile as Starkville, but still a very raucous crowd, loud crowd, against a tough Baylor team that can move the ball and can put a lot of points on the board in a hurry, for them to hang in, show some resiliency, and fight until the final whistle the way they did and come out with the victory was very impressive.
It was a complete team victory in the sense that you had defense carrying the team. They kind of stumbled, and the offense carried the team. They kind of stumbled, and the defense came back. And in the end, special teams won the game. I'm the special teams guy. I'm the special teams guy. And, Jesus was
funny how that works.
Yeah, I'm a big Jesus guy because I know how confident he is out there. And he was so confident he didn't even watch it. He just walked off the field.
Well, yeah, and that was huge. And, I mean, especially with the kicking struggles that ASU had last year, everybody talks about the open competition that they had in the student body tryouts for the kicker position after they struggled so much last year. Even just kicking extra points was a chore.
It was tumultuous. It was tumultuous at times.
Yes, it was very, yes, it was. But for Jesus Gomez to come in from the transfer portal out of Eastern Michigan and solidify the position the way he has this year, I mean, his only miss has been from 57 yards. So, he's been, spot on. He's been nails this year in that spot. He was Big 12 co-special teams player of the week for his efforts. So we'll get into his game here in a little bit. We're definitely going to break down everything in this game, and we're also going to talk about this coming week. You notice that we're on a day early. That's because the Devils are on a day early. They will welcome the number 24 TCU Horned Frogs into Tempe on Friday. So a short week for the Devils. They don't have time to rest on their laurels. They got another tough opponent coming in that can also put points on the board in a hurry. So, but we'll get into them here in just a little bit. But of course, we're going to talk about this win over the Baylor Bears. And we talked about this is one of our keys to the game. John, was controlling the time of possession. They didn't have a lot of success running between the tackles. There was a bit of a struggle there. But they did still control the time of possession. They did a good job moving the chains. Even though it was a very defensive battle in the first half. It was a 10-10 tie after at halftime. But they still came out and played hard. Managed to generate some points there, and controlling that time possession and the 3 turnovers especially is what proved to be the difference.
No, you probably took at least 5 possessions away from these guys. And
definitely.
And that was, to me, that was my number one thing, if you remember, only because I just knew they were hyped. They were a really good ball club, and they could put up points.
And we didn't want to get into a shootout with them either, because they have a high-powered offense, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, one of the better running backs especially in the Big 12 Conference, one of the bigger, and certainly a receiving core that was more than capable of boat racing just about anybody with the talent that they have on offense. And that tight end too was a monster.
Yeah, we knew he was going to be. We knew going in he was going to be a big target. But man, he he was absolutely on fire.
He was tough to stop, especially towards the end there. But ASU manages to get it done, and we both agree Sam Levitt probably played his best game of the season with the
Oh,
running game
no
struggling the
question.
way it did. Sam Levitt definitely stepped up, 22 of 32, that's 69% completion percentage, 221 yards, and a touchdown through the air. He also rushed for 62 yards and had a score on a QB sneak in the first half. And that was, he definitely played his game. I mean, I think he went through his progression. He's still struggling to go through his progressions,
Correct.
but he did a lot better than he had the first 3 games. He wasn't just looking for Jordan Tyson because Baylor was trying to take him away. He was going to Derek Eusebio. He was going to Shimon Mateer. He was going to some of these other guys. He was mixing the ball around, which is what we were calling for him to do pretty much, practically the whole season, it felt like. But yeah, 7 different players with receptions in this game. So yeah, I definitely think his best game to date for this season.
The fact that he's progressing every week, he's not regressing. I know everybody's expected him to come out the gate as the Heisman winner, and quite frankly, it's a different line, folks. We have different guys playing the O line, and it's coming together. I think he was only sacked twice.
There were some growing pains. I think we kind of figured with 4 out of 5 starters that Big Bo could slide in seamlessly, having played with Josh Atkins before. Ben Coleman just sliding over to center. There was a transition there. There's been some growing pains. I think we didn't really expect that considering the success that they had last year, but it's been a tough go so far, especially in the pass blocking. But I felt like in this game they were a lot better. They kind of need to be with the run blocking not being as strong, with Baylor kind of packing in the middle, trying to take away the inside run. But Sam Levitt certainly stepped up, and he made some big plays when he needed to.
Yep. And of course, Tyson did Air Tyson type stuff again. I mean, he does not disappoint.
Well, and this ends his streak of 60 receiving yard games. He had a bunch consecutive games going into this one. So I mean, they did kind of hold him in check, but he was still a red zone target.
They were bracketing him. They were 2-man bracketing him all night. And when
they put him in one-on-one coverage, he beat him for a touchdown. So
that's right. Well,
it was still there. He was still there. He was still a threat, and it opened up. But the fact that they were bracketing coverage, they were trying to take him away, opened up opportunities for other guys. Shimon Mateer had another strong game, 6 receptions, 55 yards. We'll talk about Derek Eusebio here in a minute, but on the defensive side, they had a lot of injuries in the secondary, and going up against a team like Baylor with such a strong passing attack. Boogie Wilson definitely stepped up, 8 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a fumble recovery. That was huge. He stepped up and played another strong game, just like he did against Texas State.
Yep. No, I love the kid. He's he's that now. I wish he would wrap up a little bit. He tends to come up and thud on people a little bit.
He did miss that tackle on Washington that I felt like he should have had, that 4th and 1. Washington probably still gets the first down, but he doesn't run all the way down to the 1.
Yeah.
If Boogie just wraps up, you are right. I think they are going to work with him on that a little bit more. He does need to wrap up and not just try to go for the highlight reel tackle every time. But yeah, that's something that's coachable. I feel like he can certainly work on. And then Kendrick Breedlove with that nice strip right there that Boogie recovered. That was big. I think Jordan Cameron's still seeing this in his nightmares. Those 2 fumbles that he had were huge, and ultimately, that along with Keith Abney's interception certainly proved to be the difference.
And they work on this in practice every day for 20 minutes. But you can actually see his wrist, how he can see how he flicked it out of there. It's a great shot.
Yeah.
I just love this shot. When we can actually see in one shot. It's like a video. You can really replay it in your mind what happened here. So and Breedlove was your newcomer, and he's playing with ferocity out there. He's just I love his game.
Yeah, he's playing that nickel spot very, very well right now. Pairing very well with Robinson and Abney at the corner spot. I like the way he stepped in and kind of made that his own. when we were, a lot of people were expecting him to split time with Montana Warren at that fifth defensive back spot. But now, Warren's hurt. Kindrich is getting a lot more reps, and I think he's taking advantage of it and making the most out of them. Baylor, we knew they were going to get their yards, they were going to get their points, but they were held in check quite a bit, especially in the first half. And Sawyer Robertson, he had a decent game, but he didn't throw. They held him under 300 yards. He did have three touchdowns, but a couple of those were to Michael Trigg, and he made a great individual effort on both of those to make them happen. So, so Robertson, he had a couple plays, but they didn't let him beat them quite as much as I think a lot of outside experts were expecting him to.
Yeah, you're right.
And then we knew Bryson Washington was going to get his yards as well. He's it's probably the toughest running back I think ASU is going to see all year, just about. Certainly the biggest and most physical, if not the most talented. I mean, everybody pretty much grades him out as the best running back in the Big 12.
Well, if you count Dampier as a quarterback and not a running back, you're probably right.
Yes, and we do. I would say he is probably the toughest running back that they'll see in the regular season. He did get it. He did have a couple big plays, but to keep him out of the end zone, I think is impressive.
Yes.
I would have liked to seen that average down a little bit more. The average down a little bit more, but they were able to keep him in check on in certain instances on certain drives.
You could tell that was on the whiteboard, just to keep him out of the end zone, and you could really tell. They succeeded. They succeeded in a lot of their goals, I think, in this game, and they should feel really good about.
When you win a close game against a tough offensive opponent like this
on the road,
you're absolutely. I picked Baylor to win myself. I wasn't sure how ASU would come out in this game, and they responded. They played extremely well.
We left some points on the board by not executing.
The red zone offense certainly left something to be desired. I'm not going to argue with that, but that's something you can work on.
Yeah, and so you got to feel good about get a win's it's a win. On paper, no one's going to know at the end of the season when you go to win your championship, your conference. No one's going to say, well, they only won by a kick.
They certainly get style points, and the AP certainly didn't show them much love, actually dropping them in the rankings. I mean, as far as receiving votes, but hey, that's just more bulletin board material. That's more motivation for these kids to go out there and earn the respect they feel they deserve. So, but that takes us into our players of the week, as we do here on RWD after a win. We feature our players of the week presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And for me, it's a little bit of a surprise for me. I'm going with Derek Eusebio, because the former walk-on who really stepped up in his home state, a lot of friends and family at this game, and he played his heart out. Not just that 61-yard catch, which was huge. He had another one for a first down before, I think right after that.
The fly sweep. Yeah.
Yeah, and then a couple sweep plays that he got for positive yardage when ASU was having trouble running the ball.
Yeah.
So that he helped to kind of get positive yardage on early downs and make it easier on second and third when they needed to. So he definitely had an impact in this game, and for that he is and I hope this proves that this gets him more run, gets him more opportunities going forward, especially with Jalen Moss out in the slot position.
I think with this, when if you're going to make the mistake of bracketing Tyson, not a mistake, it was a calculated move. They hadn't seen Eusebio, so
no, they had not. That's true.
So to run a guy out of the slot like that, he was open by 15 yards.
I know, for that 61-yard catch, I know.
But the cool thing for me having him be your player of the week was the fact that he now is known as a playmaker, and he's very consistent in practice. He doesn't drop balls. He's very sure-handed, and he he's smart. He's a very smart, heady player. He knows
Yeah.
he knows where the field is kind of laid out.
Yeah,
You know,
and
where
he
everybody
knows
is.
he recognizes the holes in the zone. He knows where to sit down, where to just what kind of where to be for the ball to get put in his hands. And I mean, we knew he was a playmaker when he scored that touchdown on his first touch, against U of A last year. So
I'm
I
telling
mean,
you, at Camp T last year, for the first 3 days, he had everybody's jaw on the floor. It was oohs and ahs every day, and I thought he was going to get more opportunity just based on camp, but really, they recognized that he was a playmaker, and they gave him a Scully. And I'm,
yeah,
I'm glad he's the fact that he did it in his home, in his home state with his home crowd, with a lot of his friends there and stuff, friends and family. That's cool. But
yeah,
he's gonna play, folks. He's gonna get a lot more playing time as a result of it. This is a breakthrough thing for him, breakthrough moment. And
yeah.
Kenny
So
has said,
expect to see more of him, definitely.
it's gonna happen. There's no question.
Yeah. And on defense, I got to go with Keith Abney. I mean, this kid has just, kind of become the team's shutdown corner. He was my pick for Defensive Player of the Year at the beginning of the season, and he certainly looks like it right now. 4 tackles, that huge interception that he had, and he's played like 157 consecutive snaps without giving up a touchdown. So,
He's
I mean,
literally inside
yeah,
he's in those receivers' shirts, man. And he's
yes,
so close. I mean, he's just a little technique away from not getting the PI. In fact, the PI he got, he was so livid by it, so upset with it. I told everybody who's sitting around me here at the house, I said, "It ain't gonna be another PI. There's gonna be a pick." He's mad. He's gonna get a pick out of this next one. And sure enough, he did.
you
You
called
know.
it.
No, I mean, you can just see how he was able to turn that frustration into, I'm going to jump the route.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I can't believe they called him for that, and then Hamilton gets his jersey practically
Oh,
ripped off, and they let that go.
what were they
Was
watching? What,
I know
what
exactly.
were,
I was pretty livid about that myself, but that those are my players of the week.
yep.
So
I can't argue with him. I had to put Jesus in there just because we don't get player of the week without getting my player of the week in the conference. So, and he scored 13 points, folks. And
mhm.
last week, I think he scored 11 or 12 last week. So, the guy's turning out to be one of the biggest scorers on the team. And then Keyshawn Elliott had a fun. If I hope you guys are our linebackers between Crook and Elliott are just playing out of their minds. And Keyshawn was just going east west all day long, covering lots of ground, 8 solos, 2 assists, 10 total, and a pass deflection. But he is absolutely just on fire out there, and I love it because he's just he is the captain, and
um,
he really is directing that whole defensive scheme.
2 of those tackles were for loss, and he also
That's
had a
right.
sack
He did.
too.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
didn't put that in here. Yeah. Well, we had 2 sacks. We had Fight had one, and so did he.
yeah, oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
But Keyshawn,
And,
I'm
and
just saying Keyshawn had one.
we,
Um,
that's 13. That's 13 sacks this year, folks. I know it doesn't sound like a lot for 4 games, but we're on or ahead of schedule from last year.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, and
and we're
well,
and we're
that was one of the problems. That's one of the things that we kind of pointed to and said that had to improve,
yeah.
was the pass rush, and I feel like it's getting a little bit better each and every
Well, we're
week.
running
Like
twists now. We're starting to run twists. Yeah.
it's getting to where we want it to be,
Yeah.
and it's coming along. I'm confident that it's just going to continue to improve, and eventually it's going to be
Oh,
a force on the defensive side.
Clayton got home several times. He had hands on him, or right about to make it,
He
and
drew a holding call. He drew a holding call
I
too.
know, right. So I mean, um, Clayton Smith is overdue for a real big, 2 sack game, guys. It's just
Yeah.
because
Yeah, and
they're twisting it. They're having him loop inside the tackle, and
they just, I think, especially I hope that comes on a 3rd and long, because that's when they really need it, because you've got to stop giving up letting teams pick up first downs on 3rd and a mile the way they have. So hopefully that cuts out as the pass rush continues to develop.
yeah, we'll talk about
So,
that in a second. How the 3rd down situation here,
right. But
but let's.
those are our players of the game presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. They put on a great tailgate that we're a part of for each and every home game. So support local athletics. Check out Valley Athletic Booster Club.
ASU's only outside booster club.
There you go. And we kind of wanted to do, with everything going on, it was the first official week of the Big 12 conference play. I mean, yeah, there were a few games leading up to this. U of A played Kansas State in technically what was a non-conference game. Iowa State and Kansas State played in Ireland on week 0 for the first conference game. But this was the first official week of conference play. And, ASU wasn't the only team in action. A lot of eyeballs on that Texas Tech Utah game, and rightfully so.
Oh yeah.
And that game was a tale of two halves with, Tech, it was like it was much like ASU, it was a defensive battle in the first half. I think Tech led 13-10 at the half. Was that it?
Yeah. And their quarterback goes down, and like the replacement comes in and just throws strikes after strike after strike. He's a cool cat.
That is a deep team at just about every position.
Woo!
Man alive.
Yeah. I don't know what's happened if that quarterback's gonna be able to come back, but my goodness.
But that is a deep team, and I know we're all kind of pointing to that October 18th game in Tempe. Hopefully, ASU can continue their kind of upward progression, because they're going to need to be at their best game, at the top of their game, when Texas Tech comes into town, because they look legitimate right now. They look like that $28 million NIL money that was invested was a smart investment, because they look like a tough team on both sides of the ball. So they're right now, they're everybody's kind of favorite to win the conference at this point.
What got my attention on Texas Tech was how physical they looked.
That hasn't always been their hallmark, especially on defense. On defense, they've kind of always been known as a weak defensive team, especially from the days of Mike Leach and whatnot. But they put some money into that group, and that defensive line especially. It looks like a dominant group, and they certainly showed it, because Utah really struggled to move the ball after about the second quarter or so. And
you're right, the second half
it was crazy. They completely shut them down in the second half.
They were physical and executed. They looked really good. And then our the man with the mullet, 20 years, Mike Gundy.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
He's a revered coach. He built that program 20 years, and he had 15 bad games. And I know a lot of the veteran, the older fans really feel like, for a guy who put that much into it for that long, they knew the handwriting was on the wall. But if you're going to do something with a 20-year guy, all he did was take him to bowl games and win championships, you fire him at the end of the season. Now they really should have done it at the end of last season, but they worked his they whittled his contract down. And it was just
I think they wanted to give him kind of a prove it year to show that he could still do it.
The criticism I hear from the inside was that he was a micromanager over 20 years, and he gave that up, and he started delegating more and more of it. But it was the attention to detail that he was all about started to wane in the last year or two. So that was really
maybe with age, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, 20 years.
Softening in his age.
You should have this is why folks, we got to recognize having a 30-year-old coach is a blessing, is an asset.
It doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at the energy he's got out there. Now he is doing a better job of. He really is focusing on special teams more than ever, instead of quarterbacks and a particular group anymore. But he's still micromanaged. He's still on top of everything.
Well, and that's what a head coach is supposed to be. I mean, he's supposed to be in tune with what everybody else is doing, but still let their coaches coach, let them do their jobs, and then just kind of if there's something comes up, kind of help them with it. Help work with certain players. Be how much you micromanage, I think, is the key. I mean, his attention. I think Gundy's attention to detail kind of wavered the past few years, especially when he was losing out on a lot of kids to NIL money, and was putting kids in the NFL, but wasn't necessarily restocking the pantry, so to speak.
But to go from 2 years ago, the last play of the regular season, losing it by an inch
to Baylor,
to win the conference by 1 inch to this is just tells you how bad it went. It was
Well, and I hate to use this example, but it's, kind of, it was also a fairly recent thing,
yeah.
and I hate to, cross sports here, but, the New York Liberty won the WNBA championship last year, and this year they were first round exit in the playoffs, and they didn't renew their coach's contract. So
Yeah.
it's all kind of, there's no loyalty. It's all, what have you done for me lately kind of thing.
It's a performance-based business. There's no doubt about it.
It really
even
is.
for a 20-year,
especially in the short term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just going to be weird.
It's very cutthroat. It's very mercenary right now. And I don't really care for it myself, especially for a guy in Mike Gundy who put so much effort and time into and years and, sacrifice for a school that he loved, for a school that he played for, and then to be shown the door this way, very, very, just rings a sour note for me.
I have to tell you,
it really
out
does.
of all of the teams that we've entered into playing in this conference, I really felt that there was a couple of natural new rivalries that were going to start as a result of this conference, and I really saw that one as being one of them, or I had hoped it was. But it's so it might take a while, but we didn't play him this year, and a lot of people saying, "Well, I wish we played him this year for an easy win." But that's not the way. It ain't the way it works, man.
Nope. Yeah, no, and it is. And I feel for the Oklahoma State fans because they're knowledgeable, they're good football fans.
I'm telling you, out of all
they're
the teams,
loyal to a fault, absolutely.
And having been there twice now for games, it is the most friendly campus.
Stillwater, yeah.
And I think it's because they know how hard it is, but two, they have some perspective. But they're the
weather permitting, of course.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, even when it rained before the last game, they're the nicest fans you're ever going to meet. But they're knowledgeable. They know football really well.
But hey, you lose. I mean, that's kind of some Herm Edwards stuff right there. You lose to a team like Tulsa. On a non-conference Friday, kind of gimme buy game like that.
They paid him to lose, and they paid him. It was a loser game, and they
hate it when that happens.
Paid to beat. Yeah, well, that's always the worst. Is and that really
for that team, yeah. But for an outside fan, I think it's kind of hilarious, to be honest. But yeah, you never want to see a guy lose his job as a result of it. But something had to change. I'm with you though. I felt like it should have come at the end of the season for his time, his success that he's had there. Yeah, they've fallen off fairly quickly.
But they
let 2 years ago.
They let the OC and the DC go at the same time. Now that's kind of rare. Normally, they kind of keep one of them around just for continuity.
Yeah, or one of them takes over as the interim head coach.
Yeah, there's a real strong feeling there that Zach Robinson was going to be the OC who was a quarterback there who won some stuff was going to be the heir apparent because he is a young, very highly knowledgeable guy, but he wasn't the firebrand that Gundy was when he came in, or like Kenny. So they'll find I think the handwriting's on the wall. They got to go young. They're not going to find it. They're not going to go find a veteran guy.
And we'll certainly keep an eye on that. But one of the surprises of the conference has been BYU, especially from a defensive standpoint. That defense that they got is one of the strongest, not just in the conference, but I think in the country, especially statistically across the board. They're really showing up, and they're undefeated. And now they're in the top 25 when everybody, us included, kind of counted them out after Jake Retzlaff was kicked off the team, their quarterback. Look what he's doing in Tulane, by the way. But BYU, I mean, they've come out of the gates like gangbusters, and they look like a legit contender right now in the Big 12. With as kind of wide open as it is. I mean, there are some teams that have started out. They've been mild surprises with how successful they've been, out of the gate, but. This BYU team, especially, I think is early on is one of the bigger surprises in this conference. Granted, their level of competition hasn't been great. They played Portland State, Stanford, and East Carolina. Two of those, the first two at home respectively. But they've come out of the gate and looked very strong with the performance that they've had. They've only given up 16 total points through 3 games. Again, take it with a grain of salt with the level of competition that they faced. They have a big game with Colorado in Boulder on the this coming weekend. So that's certainly one to watch. It'll be probably their first legit test of the season. But after that, I mean, they have a couple favorable games with West Virginia and U of A before, so they could be 6-0 here before they really get into the meat of their schedule. But their later part of the schedule gets very interesting. You think we have a gauntlet? ASU has a gauntlet here at the start of the schedule. Towards the end, I mean, they got to face some of the same teams in Utah. They got to go to Iowa State, go to Texas Tech, and then they have TCU at home. So, that's certainly going to be a team to watch, see how they react and how legit they are when they get into the meat of the schedule coming up here next month.
Right.
So,
well,
speaking of TCU, that takes us in to our preview for this week's opponent. It is, of course, on a Friday game. It's a blackout, but TCU comes in also 3-0. They were one of the surprises of college football last year at 9-4, and Sonny Dykes has them playing at a very high level. With what he's done there, he's turned them into a strong offensive team. In his 4th season, he's at an 18-9 record. He's got a great resume, being a former head coach for Cal and SMU. Some folks might remember him as a U of A OC briefly. I think he was only there for like 1 or 2 years. But he, in his first season as the TCU head coach, took them to the college football playoff final. They were boat raced by Georgia in that game, but just the fact that he got them there, they were one of the big surprises of college football that season. They knocked off Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl that year, and they've had a certain level of success just about every season since.
And it's a very small school, folks, and the fact that the way they turned it was a little. My brother-in-law went to school there. His father was a professor, and it's a very small little. I think it's like 3,500 kids go to there. But the way they turned out for the playoffs, their fans, it was amazing. The TCU Nation, Horned Frog Nation showed up week after week,
and they were. They had some a bump in the road after that. They had a lot of seniors on that 2022 team. Next year they come back and go 5-7, which was a disappointment. But then they obviously they came back last year and went 9-4, nice bounce back year. They kind of have their pieces in place, I think, to make another run at a potential Big 12 title. And they're about as talented as anybody in the team, especially offensively. Again, they haven't really played anybody yet. Their non-conference schedule was relatively weak. I mean, you didn't really know who North Carolina was going to be, their opener. And they end up going down to Chapel Hill and just embarrassing the Tar Heels in Bill Belichick's debut. Ooh, that was a must-see TV for a lot of people. But their opponents' combined record, I mean, they played North Carolina, then they had their gimme game against Abilene Christian, and then faced SMU, who's turned out to be one of the disappointments in college football after being ranked 17th to start the season. And their opponents' combined record is 6-6. And they've won a lot of games by a pretty hefty margin. But, I mean, you look at some of those games, especially the SMU game, I think is very telling because that was a close game for about 3.5 quarters.
Correct.
When SMU had the lead, and then they just kind of fell off, and TCU kind of turned it on there at the end and ended up winning by 2 scores. But we'll see how they come out on a short week after a game like that where, it got a little dicey there towards the end. It was a very back and forth game, pretty much all the way up until about 5 minutes to go in that contest. And then this is only the 3rd meeting between these two schools all time, and the first in 50 years, if you can believe it.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I see this as another natural rivalry contestant in this conference, just because it's so easy to get to Fort Worth. Flying to Dallas Love Field or DFW, and you're there.
Yeah. And this also, I mean, as many Texas kids as ASU has on their roster, I mean, right. A lot of them know each other, certainly. So
this is
certainly a rivalry there. To be sure.
And this is where Brian Carrington came from, folks.
Yeah.
Who is really our recruiter extraordinaire, who's pulling out.
He was recruiting coordinator for TCU in 2022, and their performance kind of earned him the UB's coaching job, and he's also ASU's recruiting coordinator as well. So
he earned his stripes that year, and he really moved up the ladder in terms of the size of programs you could manage.
And then just a little, this is kind of where their strength lies in their offense. 42 points per game. They're pass first team, 341 passing yards per game, and they have some familiar faces on both sides of the ball. Kendall Briles, the son of Art Briles, his third season as OC. He's a true air raid guy. He's a Hal Mummy and Mike Leach disciple. They will obviously work in the run, but they're a pass first team. They're going to go out there and try to air it out quite a bit. And he has history with Kenny Dillingham because when Briles left Florida State, Kenny Dillingham succeeded him.
Slid over from Memphis.
Kind of the rest is history from there. So definitely a little bit of history there. And this is an offense that's fun to watch. I mean, you watch them; they will air it out quite a bit. And Josh Hoover has really turned himself into one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, especially with the start that he's had to this year. 68% completion, 1,000 yards exactly, 11 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He's only been sacked twice, too. Not much of a runner. He is mobile, but he does prefer to throw the ball as opposed to actually tucking it and running. Hasn't really done that much this year, but he is very active. He's mobile. He moves in the pocket very well. He can throw well on the run. He's a good athlete, but he does prefer to actually air it out as opposed to tucking and running. So definitely going to need to keep him in the pocket and try to put pressure on him. He's kind of a smaller guy, kind of a smaller target. Right. A little bit like, I think he's kind of, I kind of consider him like Rocco Becht with a little bit better arm, to be honest. That's kind of what the comparison that I have as far as from a size standpoint. But I like his game. Big arm, can air it, can make all the throws, and he's got some weapons around him, to be sure. Jeremy Payne, with the injuries that they've had at the running back position, has kind of turned himself into a quality weapon for out of the backfield for Josh Hoover. He's kind of the scat back, the third down guy, but they do like to throw to him out of the backfield quite a bit. He's only got 23 carries through 3 games, so they will give him some touches certainly, but he's kind of a change of pace guy. Ever since the injury to Kavorian Barnes, who was their workhorse, their bell cow back earlier in the year, he will be out for this game. Trent Battle has kind of become the primary running back as far as getting the tough yards between the tackles, and he's got a couple touchdowns on the year. But so they will mix these two in. They are kind of different backs, so. They can show a couple different looks. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how ASU matches up with these guys. But really the ones to watch on this team are the receivers, and the big one is Eric McAllister. This kid had a huge game against SMU. If you watch him, he's a Boise State transfer. And he's got 13 receptions, 320 yards. All 3 of those touchdowns, by the way, came against SMU last week. He's a big target. It's 6'3". He runs about 205. I think that's a little low. He looks more like 215, 220, to be honest. He's a big kid, a big target, and he can run very, very well. So he's a good deep threat, big red zone target. They will certainly look for him quite a bit. And then the Idaho transfer, Jordan Dwyer, is having himself a great year. 17 receptions, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns on the season. He's another guy. He's more the deep threat. He's kind of a smaller guy compared to Eric McAllister. They'll put him in the slot a little bit more. He's certainly a guy that can stretch the field, can do a lot of things very well, moves the chains well. They'll line him up all over the place and find ways to get him the ball. So definitely got to be on your toes with him. And then one of their big gets in the transfer portal was Joseph Manjak IV.
What a great name.
Yeah, I know, right?
I thought
first view on him, I thought he was a tight end because I hadn't seen him a whole lot at Houston. I don't think he played a ton, but he's been a nice add to this receiving core. And he comes over from Houston, and he's kind of carved himself out a niche in this offense. He's looked really good with 9 receptions, 153 yards, and a touchdown so far this year. But they ramped up his usage week in and week out so far this year, and they're going to find different ways to get him the ball. And same goes for their tight end. Usually, a lot of times in a true air raid, you won't see the tight end used a whole lot. They use him in this offense. DJ Rogers is having himself a good year at the tight end spot. 9 receptions, 82 yards, and a touchdown on the season. So they will spread you out and utilize these wide receivers and DJ Rogers, the tight end, very, very well. So definitely a great group that just they find different ways to beat you, but especially through the air, they are very difficult to try and catch and try and keep up with. And this is a veteran offensive line group. None of them are really lighting it up as far as preseason accolades, but they play well. They play very well together. Colton Deary, the center, Carson Bruno, the guard, and tackle Ryan Hughes are kind of the leaders on this team. 95 career starts among these 5 guys, and only 2 sacks allowed so far this year. So they've done a good job keeping Josh Hoover clean. And I mentioned their leading rusher Kavorian Barnes, who's a bigger back, handles a lot of gets a lot of the tougher yards for them. He is out for this game. He didn't play against SMU either. And also out is their place kicker, Kyle Lemmerman, who, he was 6 for 6 on field goal, or 2 for 2, on field goals. They don't kick a lot of field goals with TCU. They've only attempted 3 all season. So, and Nate McAshland's taken over, and he missed one he's the only one that he's attempted from inside of 40 yards. So expect them to go for it a little bit more on 4th down with the issues that they're having at the kicker spot right now. Yep.
No doubt.
So moving on to the the TCU defense. They are, they've only allowed 107 rushing yards per game on average, but take that with a grain of salt with the teams that they've played against. Not the best rushing teams. This will certainly be their biggest test as far as the ground game goes to date this season. And only 20 points per game allowed. Again, they kind of boat race some teams, but they did give up 24 last week against SMU. Yeah, but they're still very tough. Their defense has really stepped up and been a lot stronger this year, and that's because of with due in part to Andy Avalos, now in his 2nd year with the team, and the former Boise State head coach brings a wealth of experience over, and he's done a good job with this group so far. They are very tough, especially on the back end. They got a couple of pro prospects at safety, and it starts with if we can go to the next slide.
Sorry, I've got the D-backs on it. It's getting really close, guys.
I'll start with their linebackers though. Caleb Elams Orr and Nnamdi Obiazor, their leading tacklers. Both of them have sacks on the year. They love this defense. Loves to blitz. They will attack you. They will put pressure on you. They are trying to actively get into the backfield and put pressure on the quarterback. This team will pin their ears back and come at you from a lot of different angles. They love to blitz, and they'll certainly do it with these linebackers. And Devion Dial is their leading edge rusher. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown earlier this year. Is also among the team leaders with 12 tackles. So definitely got to keep an eye out on him because he can certainly impact the game as well. And then their defensive tackle, Ansel Din Umba, the Washington State transfer, is very tough on the inside. He's actually their sack leader so far to this year, I believe, with 1.5 sacks on the season to go along with 7 tackles.